How you guys doing? We're jumping on a little bit late, but thank you very much. Had some technical difficulties, but we're all excited to be here. So there's a friend of mine. He's the guy playing in the background. You can hear him. His name is Jami Lula. About 20 years ago, I heard a song that he wrote. It's called "Spirit is in the House," and that song connected with me immediately, and it connected with me really, really deeply. The funny thing about music and the funny thing about lyrics is there's a good chance that Jamie's story, the story he wrote, the meaning he had behind the song, probably not the same meaning as I have. But that's really common in music, right? So somebody will write a song, somebody will write lyrics, and it'll mean something to them, but not necessarily the same thing to the person that's listening. It doesn't make that song any less beautiful or any less great. It's just things are subject to interpretation, aren't they? And that happens in regular communication every day. So would you agree that much of what we say in life and just everyday life gets misunderstood? Like sometimes our words get twisted and turned around, and then they become the cause of conflict. And what's the real cause of conflict here is something that I'm always curious about. Is it what we said, or is it how it was taken? How the people that heard what we said, how they decoded it in their own head, and how they translated it to themselves. See, everybody has their own language. We all grow up and we learn things, and we have our own interpretation for words and for emotions and meanings. And one of the things we talk about in the curiosity theory is it's good to find out what other people's meanings are for what they say, because they can mean one thing and you can think it means something else. And so you guys are literally having two different conversations at the same time. Whether it's using songs and lyrics to get our message out, or we're just, asking our kids to take out the trash, what we say matters and is always subject to interpretation. So the way that we experience the world as human beings is through language. Like I'm using language right now and you're hearing the language. So I may use a word, and I try not to use the word. I'm not that smart, so I don't use these big words, right? But if I was using a word that you didn't know, then that part of the sentence really gets dropped out, and then the remainder of the sentence gets dropped out because our line of communication, how we hear, is kind of linear. And then we hear the sentence, and if the sentence isn't complete, if it doesn't make sense, then it actually drops out, and we're waiting for the next part of the sentence or the next communication, or we go like, what's the guy talking about? So we use language to get our needs met, to share what's going on with us, to share our emotions and our wants. So saying what you have to say really matters. It matters to you, and it should matter to you. Speaking from the heart, speaking with clarity and integrity, while staying curious is what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I want to bring on my guests, and let's see how they vibe about that. What do they have to say about that? So plain background right there with my buddy Jami Lula.
That was
Dave, how you doing, brother?
That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you guys just to say something about yourselves, and we'll do ladies first. Talk Shaylee, and then tell us who you are, and just tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we're going to talk about honestly expressing.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you clearly. You sound great.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm really excited about this topic. This is something that's really present for me. I do behavior change coaching, and I've been doing that for the last 7 years. And so I actually have a sort of strange angle in that I use data and analytics to help people collect new evidence to rewrite their own beliefs. So rather than me leading the change, I sort of create a structure and provide space for them to lead it themselves. And outside of that, I love dancing and art and playing outside. And I'm so passionate about this topic. I think it's so important just to bring awareness to it. And I'm honored to be invited to contribute.
We're super happy to have you. Mikey, brother, I've been wanting to get you on the show for a long time. We've been missing each other. So tell us a little about, tell everybody who you are and what you're up to.
So my name is Mikey Adam Cohen, and I'm totally about transparent, authentic conversation. I just got certified in NLP, so just have a test to take, and I'm almost there. So, I'm really happy about that, and I just did a whole summit about living with joy through the pandemic. So I got, some of the best of the best. Martine, we still would like to have you you and any other people that are here today. Jamie would be awesome. All of you would be awesome to have on the show. We did a summit and we got so much rave reviews that we're going to do 2 more back to back, and
Wow.
we got all like a lot of great people from all different walks of life. You know, covering motivation, covering music. We had Melissa Manchester finishing it out. And you know, we just got a bunch of people that believe in changing the collective collaborative consciousness.
That's a heck of a word to say, huh?
To yes, to raise the vibration and just, you know, live a happy, joyful life. Yeah, Martine, you definitely encapsulate all that. So thank you.
But I can't say that though 3 times. Hey, Mikey, thanks for being here. Jamie, my brother, how are you? Tell us who you are and tell us, what you're doing.
My name is Jami Lula, and I got to take one of these headphones off because I had to go through the computer so I could hear myself. I live up in LA. I'm originally from Detroit. I've been out here since 1987. A singer-songwriter. I sing in spiritual communities and kind of left the club scene back in the first year that we started USM together. I left my band at the end of '98.
I remember that.
Committed. Yeah, and I'd been with them for 10 years and just wanted to do something to bring forward the spirituality as I was coming to understand it, and kind of build some bridges between the spiritual cultures and the recognition that we're all talking about the same thing. We just have different verbiage, that no one's got the corner on the market of the infinite.
Yeah.
And so I spend a lot of time singing about God, but lately I've been writing a lot with my songwriting partner, although he's in Yellowstone this week. But we've written like 18 songs in quarantine. It's been a beautiful collaboration, and we've been working together since 2013. And this has been a really right time, and it's challenging because there's so much coming at me.
Yeah.
I know it's not coming at you guys. You guys aren't feeling it.
Yeah, we don't feel it. It's nothing. Everything's down here is copacetic. So I kind of start off, Jamie, with talking about your song, Spirit is in the House. And I think that's a really, really great place to start if we start with music, because that's such a common thing. Like somebody writes a song, and then we have our interpretation of that song, and then the writer has their own interpretation of that song. So the first thing you asked me when I was talking about your song, I said, so what does the song mean to you? And like that song to me, I don't even know if it means anything to me. It just feels like great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know all the words. I mean, I've been singing that song for 20 years. I know all the words of the song. I love the song. I have the CD. I have it on, on iTunes, and I listen to it all the time. And like, it feels to me like it just feels like you're just saying, you're just filling up the world with spirit. That's kind of what it means to me. So I don't know. I never asked you, what does it mean? And I think that's the point of this whole thing, is like when you're honestly expressing yourself, when you're writing a song, you're honestly expressing like a truth to you, right? So what does that song mean? And then what's it like to honestly express yourself through song?
That song was inspired initially at a teen camp. I did music for teen camps for Centers for Spiritual Living from 1998 through 2000. This kid is up on stage, this little black guy, probably 40, and he was up there, and they were doing their talent show, and I was standing next to my friend Charles Hall and Georgia Muldrow, and this kid up there, he was rapping along with Kid Rock. Mm-hmm. And I just went, Spirit in the house! And for me, it was that vitality that this young man was exuding. And it became a thing. I started out all the teen camps, they'd get in and my first song, it's Spirit in the House, and just start playing it. But to me, it's it's like you say, it's being able to pull the spirit. Everything here, we all there. It's not about spirit about Jesus or Buddha. It's about all of it. It's about the spirit of life that's within us, and finding that within us, and finding that in any room that we walk in, and finding that in anywhere we go, anybody that we're with. I remember when I lived in Dallas, and I went to it was a lesbian nightclub, and my friend Mary took me there, and she says, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna own this room. And I'm like, but I'm a guy, and it's, I'm not gay, and I guess I would be a lesbian, but
body, I think,
we
right?
went in there and had such a great time. But once again, it was the thought of going in there and we're just gonna light this place up. And I don't know if we did or not. I mean, I feel like we just went and are free. And that was spirit in the house.
Yeah.
That was waking up spirit in the house. That's what it means to me.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to kind of go in a different direction than I was planning on going. So this is for Mikey and Shaylee. So I said what I thought it meant, and then Jamie said what it meant. And doesn't that happen like you're in conversations and you're watching two people talk or something, and they're talking about literally talking about two completely different things, but they're talking about the same subject. So from your perspective, like, how is that, and how does that show up for you guys?
Well, for me, it feels like you're trying to create a collaborative movement around just being a human being and being in this world together. And to me, that there's nothing better at this point in our lives when our world is so separated, to be together is such a great thing. That's what I got from the song, and I really, I understand how everyone feels differently about it, and yeah. I love the fact that you put yourself out there and you're vulnerable to be in a gay club. I'm gay. I would have signed up for that, but take me next time.
Okay.
but then again, I live in a straight world, as Martine knows. Like, I've taken him to music festival, and he's invited to go to more music festivals with me in the future, where we get to have all access, and and that's my world, So like, and that's not a gay world. So I love that you put yourself in that vulnerable position, and you allowed yourself just to live. And to me, that's being the full self-expressive, being that you are, and being a vessel and just showing up and being of service is like the best thing you can do for anybody on the planet.
That's cool. Shaylee.
So actually, I think I heard your question a little bit differently, Martine. So just to demonstrate the ways that can happen, I'm going to answer it the way that I heard it. And in preparing for this, I put together some diagrams because that's usually helpful for me in putting concepts that are bigger than words into something that I can use to communicate. I find that I have access to a picture that's very real, and it can be challenging for me to kind of describe it. So I use visuals. And so what I think I heard you say earlier, Martine, which is perfect for what I had here. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
There's a center object, and that can be an event, a word, a conversation, a thing, a person, and then there are two people on either side of it. And what I like to highlight when I'm talking about this topic is that so many things influence how this thing is interpreted and then recorded by these two beings or these two separate entities. And it could just very well be what they had for lunch that day. But it's really interesting when you're communicating to think about different dynamics. Like if this was Bert and Ernie and they were talking about this, they'd have a common language that would make it pretty easy to get their meaning across. But if there's a male and a female, it might be a little bit more challenging, or somebody who has had pain relative to this and somebody who hasn't. And so whenever you were talking about it, Martine, this is kind of what came to mind for me.
So you're talking about the influence of just our past and where we come from, what we ate for lunch, and what we got to do tomorrow. All that is going to influence the conversation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. How I'll hear you today will be very much in the container of what else I thought about today, and what else I have on deck for tomorrow. And yeah.
So when I think about honestly expressing, so, it's like we had literally 4 completely different conversations inside of about just a few minutes, right? I think with the timer, this is how long we've been going. So we've been going on for a few minutes, and we have 4 different conversations. Shay that writes pictures. I also write pictures, Then we have, Mikey, who acknowledges and then says, I'd like to acknowledge you for your courage. And then Jamie says, well, I hit the stage and there was this guy and I just said, spirits in the house, and then I had like this version. I'm like, well, this is just the most spiritual song in the world, hallelujah, it's like, but we can laugh and we can communicate. Honestly, we can express ourselves. That's not what mostly happens in the world.
I think it's indicative right now with the whole political conversation.
Yeah.
I finally turned off Facebook today because I had to turn it back on because I was coming on here and your message was on here. But I had to turn it off because it's just ugly. It's like, communicating honestly, it's like I started writing something with Floyd. My songwriting partner is Gary Lynn Floyd. We go out as Floyd Lula. And I said, I need to write something about treating people with kindness because we've just lost our kindness. And a friend of mine posted some videos because Trump was in Florida yesterday and he went down there and he's a Biden-Harris person and he took video of this woman she's going, you're a fucking soulless, godless human being. And it's like, okay, there's that good Christian ethic,
That's right.
And it was just, she should have hit him with the Bible. And it was just so hateful. And it's like, okay, I don't agree with the guy that's supposed to be leading the country. I've never resonated with him in my life, but it's like my friend Russell Downing says. He goes, I don't like him and I don't believe him, but I'm going to love him and I'm going to pray for him and I'm going to send him love. And it's like, that's hard sometimes because I hear what comes out of his mouth and what gets galvanized. And it's like to stay in the loving, because honestly, once the anger comes up, people start calling me names and I want to call names back. So it's a very interesting, now creating honestly, because I know where I want to create from. If I were to be a punk rocker, I would just be F you, everybody,
That's right.
But it's like knowing where I want to come from. I've got to take a look at my part in it. And what's the anger that it's bringing up in me? And what is it triggering in me? And how do I get to what I want to say from a place of neutrality, a place of balance, and hopefully a place of love and compassion, because whatever I'm not loving or feeling compassion about them is just a reflection of how I'm not feeling compassionate or loving for myself.
Exactly.
Whenever you were talking, Jamie, about spirit in the house and looking for it in different places, I was thinking about that relative to conversation and how that as an orientation is so helpful in facilitating the transference of meaning, because there is that safe space and sort of like the sincere intention. Which is probably why it's so easy for all of us to, authentically communicate with each other, because it seems like we're all sort of sitting in the same but different place.
I think there's also rules of conduct. So we have certain rules of conduct in this context that we're in right now. But would we behave the same, if we were not in this context? Maybe we're sitting at a dining room table. Would we say the same things? Would we stop? Would we interrupt each other? There's things that happen. The idea of the conversation is honestly expressing. It's that ability to honestly express yourself. So if what you're doing, without judgment. So if what you're doing is you're saying, fuck the guy, or, fuck the other guy, or whatever, that's your honest expression. That's your honest expression. My hope is that at some point you'll see yourself and then decide, is that what you honestly, truly, authentically want to express? And the answer, I think, for a lot of people is yes. And then I think then you look and at some point you look and you say what Jamie said is like, at some point I gotta look and see, how's that a reflection of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because the saying, if you're on the left and if you're trying to send love to Donald Trump, I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. There's not a whole lot of agreement for that. That requires what I call a hero's journey. That requires you being a hero, not only outside but inside here to yourself, being the highest and the best, the greatest version of yourself.
Right.
Because that's not an easy thing to. It's not an easy thing to do if you're influenced in the other direction. So when I think about the whole concept of honesty expressing, I think of like living through wisdom, like living through our wisdom. Like I have my experiences of life, and I want to bring those experiences in my conversation. So when Jamie says, I'm going to, well, my version would be that I'm going to look and I'm just going to send love and light, however that is, however much I can. That comes from the wisdom. That comes from me knowing that is in the highest, best interest of myself and all that are concerned. Otherwise, I can just disrupt the whole place and make it crazy. So when you're expressing yourself honestly, Mikey, you said something, and I don't know. I'm just imagine when, as a gay man, because I don't have to declare anything, I don't have to tell anybody I'm Mexican. I don't have to tell anybody I'm straight. I don't tell anybody anything. You did. What's that like with regard to honestly expressing yourself? I'm just really curious about that.
Well, it's really hard. I mean, if I want to hang out in the gay world, everything's fine and dandy. But I represent myself in the straight world, and I don't like to be defined by labels. I just like to live my life the best I can and to make an impression on as many people as I can so that we can, really help as many people as possible. But, it's difficult. When I was an activist, I was tear gassed. And, when you get tear gassed, you realize that you're not on the same page as everybody else. And you realize that there's a lot of hate in the world that you don't even know exists. And like, you're just there to celebrate, being gay and being yourself and, opening up to the world. And when you're tear gassed and there's signs up and of hatred and whatever else, just when you get tear gassed, it stings. It really hurts. You feel it.
Always the one, right?
Yeah, you feel it internally. You feel it, and you don't want to continue. And there were some people that were tear gassed recently with in regards to the protests recently with the white people. In my opinion, the white people, white fragility. Being white is a privilege. And I just I didn't know any better, and I really feel that like it's that we really had an injustice with a lot of the Black people in the world, and I'm doing my best to try to resolve that now with myself and other people. But I really resonate with the people that are protesting now and getting tear gas because they're just trying to represent themselves to the best of their ability, and they can't, and they're being reprimanded for it, and it's hard. So yeah, thank you for asking. But for the most part, I live my life as a closeted straight man because I just find it's easier, and it's easier if I just do what's right and like everybody else instead of the way I want to live. It's hard.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about that if you're open for that.
Yeah.
In the context of honestly expressing, because you talked about being tear gassed, and then there was the whole thing about it started with my question was about being gay, and saying that because like I don't have to say that, like it's not something I have to say. It's not
Yeah.
something you have to say, it's something you said, which I would call that as an expression. Like, I'd like to express myself. I'm gonna act like I was you, okay? So I'd say, if I was gay, I'd say, listen, I'd like to express, and I'd like people to know this is who I am. I'm a gay man, and I'd like you guys to know that, so that I can speak from that context.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm trying to understand like how that shows up, because I don't have that.
Right. I mean, I try to be as fully expressive as I can. So that might show up in what I wear, that might show up in who I am, but I just try to live my life by my own rules. But I also try to, be mindful. I think a lot of the world's problems are because we're not mindful, and if we really think about what we're going to say, and we think about how that affects other people, we could really change a lot of people's lives here. So, like, my journey the last 5-10 years in motivation, being personally mentored by Les Brown and Brian Tracy and some incredible people throughout my journey. Let's say Brian Tracy, for example. Brian Tracy told me, don't hold anybody responsible or blame anyone for anything that's ever happened in your life. You take full responsibility and realize that you caused that energy to shift in whatever way it did, and you take ownership of it. To me, that was the best advice anyone has ever given me any time in my life. Because I blamed my parents, I blamed my friends, I blamed all these people for so many different things, and being able to just own it and own that I messed up and that I caused this to happen to myself. And that could even be, being gay. Like I put myself on that float, and by taking ownership of it, it really resolves a lot of things.
So that to me, what you just did is what I call honestly expressing. It doesn't have to be easy. It's not easy.
No.
Maybe it's not even easy to figure out what our thoughts are about it. Maybe we stumble through it. Like, I'm trying to say this or I'm trying to say that, but maybe that's not exactly what I tried to say. I'm gonna do my best to say it. What I noticed is the humility and the courage that you just had to say what you just said. Like, I heard your words, but I think beyond your words was the courage that you just, that you just showed, and that's humility. And to me, that's what I'm looking for, like in the expression of honestly expressing myself, is like, it's hard sometimes. It's hard to say what I feel. It's hard to say, and even make it understandable. And even for me to understand it and then articulate it, that's tough. But what are the rules? Like, how do you do that? Like, how you just did it. And I know Jami writes songs and Shaylee teaches people. How do you guys do that? How do you get what's honest inside yourself out so that it represents what you say, but it also makes that impact that you want to in the world? How do you do that?
I mean, I love that Jami can do that through a song.
Yeah.
And impact that many people's lives through his music. And that honestly, Martine, that's why I love music so much. I feel like that's why I started my nonprofit, Healing Through Music, because I believe that music is healing on all levels. We're a vibration. Everything about us is a frequency. So, I really believe that, we can change a lot of people's lives through music and through motivation. Shaylee, I wish I could talk like you. If I could talk like you, I'd be, running for president. Right? That girl's got everything going for her. Thank you.
And pictures too.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
How does what I say, just, what Mikey and my conversation, how does it resonate for you guys? How do you want to contribute, Jami or Shaylee? What would you like to say?
Well, I guess, can I answer? So first, I do want to honor Mikey, like that's been your journey, because like she's not easy, and it takes a lot to even assume ownership for your experience, and that's a journey in itself. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So thank you.
Thank you. I love Veronica Mendez that just made that comment. Veronica is an incredible mentor of mine, and she was just on my Live a Joy Summit, and she really manifests everything that she wants to happen in life. And I'm learning to manifest things to happen in my own life. So that was awesome. Thank you, Shaylee.
Oh,
Jamie, how would you like to respond and add to that?
Is Shaylee done? Were you done, Shaylee?
Oh, sorry.
If there's space, I'd like to suggest one more thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
this is like we're just hanging out talking.
Okay.
You take it away, girl.
All right. So when you were asking how do you make that possible, I suggest considering it from a few different angles. So you've got like the blocks that are holding you from expressing. So you could do it that way, but you could also look at why might you want to, and what value is there. I find that the reasons that we don't are often just mirages. I don't want to do it because I don't want to feel disconnected to people, but you're not actually connecting with them when you're not expressing authentically.
Yeah.
You're not meeting people that can meet you. So it's just interesting to kind of poke at it. Like, is it real? Is it real?
I love that.
Yeah. How do you work through challenges that you have in life if you're not being authentic, if you're not saying what you need to say? Because there's always something that's unsaid, or it's kind of like walking on, building a house without a strong foundation. Parts can be missed. That's how I hear kind of what you're saying, Shane. That's how it lands for me. Jamie.
It's interesting to me because it conjures up those people that think because they just say what they feel, they just, just because you feel it doesn't mean that it's right. Just because you feel it doesn't mean that it's right or it's nice or it's kind. And I know that words hurt. I mean, it's like, I know we're supposed to have this. It's like, what you think of me is none of my business. It's like, yeah, I don't know many people that just, it rolls off of that, have that, that kind of skin that it rolls off of. So in that context, expressing honestly, it's like I said earlier, I have to be mindful, and it's like, my wife is probably one of my biggest teachers. And we used to finish each other's sentences, but now I'm just interrupting her. When we first started going out, I was finishing her sentences, and now you're interrupting me. You didn't let me finish. It used to be cute when we first went out, and it was like I wasn't trying to interrupt her or anything, but so I think because I've got time to work with a song and to work with a lyric and to work with a melody and harmony and stuff, it's easier to get to the truth. And I think the adage of, if you don't have anything kind to say, don't say anything at all, sometimes is, I think you have to look at the situation. There's times when, this will sound terrible, but the other morning, Sue's got up and she had an 8 o'clock Zoom prayer thing for Agape. She does that a couple times a month.
Agape.
Agape, yeah. And she didn't sleep much, and she came in the kitchen, and I looked at her and I said, babe, I think you should put some makeup on. Oh, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Thanks. And it's like, I didn't mean it, because I always look at my wife and it's like, but her eyes were puffy. And I just didn't think, I'm like, and she's always like, I appreciate when you're honest, when she does her fashion shows for me and stuff. I'm just reading, words have power, choose them wisely because they leave a lasting mark. So true, Shigala. Thank you. I didn't say it to hurt her. I was saying it because her eyes were puffy, and she got mad at me. It's like, thanks for saying that. And it's like, okay, I shouldn't have said anything, or, she would have probably figured it out when she went to the mirror. And it wasn't intentional, So that's an example of being honest with the closest person in my life, and them not taking it too kindly.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it's that balance.
Like,
But
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Shane.
So is it what you said, or is it how it gets decoded?
I'm
You know?
sure that it's the way that it got decoded because I know that I didn't go, oh, babe, go put some makeup on. It wasn't
Yeah.
like that. It was
You
like,
gotta do something about that girl.
yeah. It
That
was like, babe, I think you better like go look in the mirror, maybe put a little makeup on, you know?
Yeah.
And it just, it wasn't going to land. She was tired and I don't blame her, you know? It's like her looking at me. It's like, whoa, honey, you've gained some weight over this quarantine. It's like, yeah, I'm feeling a little robust.
a little tight in the jeans there.
Yes.
I love it.
You know, so there's the dance.
Yeah.
See, this is exactly the dance right here. It's that we have things we're saying, and if we don't do what Shaylee says and we hold back, then they don't get to be expressed.
Right.
So then we then are suppressed, and then we step back. And so where's our, where does that relationship go? Any relationship, whether it's in a marriage, or whether it's you and your son, or your dad or mom, or your somebody you work with, like what happens? Like, so the idea, I believe, is to learn, all of us to learn how to stay curious about what people are saying. This is what somebody said to me. I'm curious. Can you tell me what you meant by that? Well, so if I would have said that to you, let's say let's say I was your wife and you said what you said, and I'd say, Jamie, I'm real curious. What did you mean by that? What would you have said?
You look like hell, babe. No. No, I would have just said, you look like you didn't sleep last much and you might want to put a little makeup. Because I know that she's self-conscious about how people perceive her too.
So if I'm part of that conversation and I'm being curious, I could say something like, so I'm curious, are you saying that you care for me and you want me to look beautiful and I'm not showing up that way right now?
Yeah, wouldn't be about. You're always beautiful to me, Martine. I mean, Susie.
It's
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's.
The way you phrased that, Martine. That was funny.
Yeah.
he thinks I'm beautiful too. So yeah, it's in that. It's in how we talk, and when we all of a sudden we get offended, we get triggered. The thing is that triggers are always going to happen.
Yeah.
They're always going to happen. They're going to happen for us. They're happening for, if somebody would say, BLM, and if for some reason you just had the wrong, a different opinion about that, you're triggered,
Mm-hmm.
You can say anything. You can say, I'm gay. You can say I'm Hispanic. I'm fat. You can say anything. You can say anything. And someone's going to get triggered because people get triggered. We just get triggered. There's cues and there's prompts that they affect us. The idea behind honestly expressing for me was that we're going to come from our own personal observations, our own personal feelings, and our own personal needs, being completely responsible for that. So this is what I observe is I observe three amazing human beings, and how I feel is I feel really grateful and happy. Why? Because I have a need to connect with people. I have a need to get a message out about the curiosity theory. That's the truth. It's not much more. It's not much less than that. That's like, why are we here? Because that's my need. What does it do for me? It makes me happy. That's an honest expression of what's going on in this world today with me. I can talk about a conversation I had with somebody earlier. That conversation didn't go in the way that I wanted it to go. My need was to be connected and to show love and support. And my experience was I would have an experience of being rejected. That was my experience.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying the person was rejecting me. I think the person was protecting themselves. I don't know. I couldn't have that conversation. I'm not going to try to make up a bunch of stories about that. And that's where we get stuck, is we make up stories about what's being said.
Or what's not being said.
Or what's not being said, yeah.
It reminds me of in the creative process. I will send something to my writing partner and a lyric or a musical idea. And this happened recently with a song that we wrote. And it's a new song that we wrote called it's called Holy Human Union. And I sent him the song. I had gone on GarageBand, as untech savvy as I am as far as recording and stuff. I put something together. I found a loop. I put it together. I recorded the guitar. I recorded vocals. I laid it down. I sent him the lyric, and I'm like, tell me what add to it. Because when I find when I bring my songs to him, it always expands, in a beautiful way. Well, he sends me back something, and it's like he hasn't used any of the music that I sent him. He came up with completely different chords, and I'm just going, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And I talked to him like 2 days later, and he had never seen the MP3 in the email.
Oh no.
So he had gone in and written something completely different, and I'm going, oh my God, he hates it. He doesn't like it, And it's like,
That's just
and then he,
Yeah.
What's that? Say that again, Mikey.
That's just the voices you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he listens to it and he goes, oh my God, I love this. This is great. And then he ended up coming up with another hook in it that just took it to a whole nother level. But he goes, oh my God, I didn't even see that MP3. And I go, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's like he didn't listen to it at all. He didn't use my chords, so.
But did you love what he did previous to that? Did you even give notion to that?
I listened to it, and it's hard as a songwriter because I got real attached to what I had created.
Right.
And I listened to what he did, and it just sounded very generic to me. And so, no, I didn't like it.
Were the lenses you were listening through? Were the lenses of he didn't listen to my song, he doesn't like my song, whatever?
That's what I was getting.
Is that what you were saying, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there was a certain element of that going on. I guess I was feeling a little judged or something like that. It's like, oh God, he doesn't, Yeah,
like human being happens to us. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Human being always happens to us every day.
Yeah.
Happens is always. I can look at it. I got a text from somebody that said, what happened? You forgot about me? No, I didn't forget about you.
Life
happens, And it's like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? For my girlfriend, right? She says, what happened? You forgot about me? It's like, what does that mean? Does it mean?
I will add that you're adding that tone to that where it could be very playful.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to use my interpretation. I'm just kidding. That's perfect. That's exactly right. So I'm going to interpret it my way, and then I can interpret it a bunch of different ways. And then everybody at the table can have their influence on it.
I love what you added to that, though. Yeah.
It's exactly right.
We're adding an element. Yeah.
And I get reminded about that. See, I was doing my thing, right? Because I'm in my world. I'm kind of crunched down in my world. I had my own concerns about saying this. And then, so I'm kind of tunnel visioned in my conversation. And then Shaylee says what she says, like, oh, yeah, it reminded me of that which I believe. Yes, I'm looking at from my own perspective, period.
So that projection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Constant, right? It's a constant, like we're constantly projecting everything we know. And so I think of the benefit of honestly expressing oneself is that other people can then honestly express themselves. And then if you're in a space of safety and neutrality, trust, respect, then you get to hear those things that way. Because that's the space you're creating. That's the conversation you're creating. So if I'm taking responsibility for what I'm feeling, right, inside of the context of a call, then it's going to go one way. But if it doesn't go in one way, you can get sidetracked with, hey, how about this? You didn't think about this. Like, oh, okay, cool, It's exactly what happened. I love that, Shady. Thank you. And I think that that's often what we're trying to do for each other is we're trying to give each other different perspectives because we all have a different viewpoint. We're all looking at it from a different way. But hearing somebody give you a different perspective, I think oftentimes for people says, is my perspective invalid?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's another way of thinking about the situation from another person's perception of the situation.
But how do you take that when you think or when you're committed or when you're strong about your conviction?
Like I said, Brian Tracy would tell me to take ownership that, I should respect everybody's opinion, and that I should take ownership of myself in that circumstance. And that really, it's really hard to do. Believe me, you want to be so narrow-minded and just believe that you're right, and then you just listen to everybody else, and then you realize, okay, I messed up.
Yeah, well, like Jamie says, it's like just because we think it doesn't make it true.
It doesn't make it true. No.
And so I'd like to throw out like a hypothesis for you guys to kind of comment on. So it seems like regardless of what meaning we assign, it is sort of arbitrary. And so in my mind, when I sort of like did the math, it always makes sense for me to pick a meaning that feels good to me. And then you can follow it up with a question if you need to. But I guess I like to throw that out. So like, is there harm in assigning a meaning that's positive to the feedback that you're getting or the information that is present?
So let me respond to that. I don't think there's any harm in assigning meaning, whether it's positive or negative. It just doesn't say, it's not necessarily saying what the person was trying to say to you. So if somebody's trying to make a communication to me, I can assign a meaning to it. But if my meaning isn't what they said, we're not talking about the same thing.
Ooh, how about this? Actually, so what about it's assigning a feeling instead? And so you're choosing to feel good and then you're responding, and then you might ask for more information from a safer or more empowered place.
Absolutely. All that, I think all that comes together really powerfully. So how about when you're triggered and the feeling isn't good? How about that?
Hence when you're doing something creative.
Yeah.
Because I know NLP and what you do, Shaylee, and as far as a creative endeavor, just taking, for example, the song that I sent to him and he hadn't listened to it. I wasn't aware that he hadn't listened to it.
Right.
And I had a good laugh with my wife after it was all over. Oh my God, he didn't even listen to it. He didn't even realize it was there. I think Susie always reminds me to perception check, which I think is a very important tool that I oftentimes forget because my knee-jerk reaction is still based in there's something wrong with me, and coming from in the creative world, in collaboration, it's like letting that down and it's important to ask for what you want, and it's also important to learn to compromise in the context of that. So it's an interesting dynamic. I can't, what do I do when I create? Go ahead.
To re-listen to that song that he proposed about recording it. I think it's necessary and it's valid to me.
Mm-hmm. So listen back to his original version before he heard the other one. Yeah,
or even if you make it another song and it's titled, Part B or whatever it is on the journey, I think it's definitely important, and I think it would validate him as well.
Yeah.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Once you get a common perspective and you're in alignment, it sure opens up possibilities to other things, right? You get to laugh at yourself, go, hey, guess what? I was kind of mad because you sent this song and I sent this MP3 and you didn't listen to it. Like, oh, you know what? Now that I listen to it, it's a great song. Like our perceptions are just constantly changing. Just like what Shaylee did. I was like, and Shaylee said something like, "Wow." Now I'm like looking at this text, going, "Oh man, what am I making it mean?" And it's like you said, it's a perception check. We can do that for each other. We can do that for each other, and that's a great thing. It doesn't always feel great. It doesn't always feel great when someone's giving you a perception check. And then that's part of a muscle I think we can build. We start to build through, and I build it through curiosity. Let me stay curious. Where can I look at this from a different perspective? And I've used curiosity because curiosity makes me not lash out.
Right.
My knee-jerk reaction is fuck you. I'm the host here, Like that's kind of like, you know what I mean? That's kind of like but that's how I live my life, you know, and that's how I kind of used to live my life. It's like, no, it's like everybody's got to listen to me because I'm Martine, and you know, like I'm something, right? And when I talk to people, the more people I talk to, it seems to me that's common for them. That's how they live their life. Is they're smart. They figured things out. So when somebody contradicts them, it's like, well, no, I've validated this through my life. What are you talking about? This is a good way to make it make sense. Why should I look at it from a different perspective? It makes sense this way. The matter of fact, the evidence shows. Look at this is the evidence, right? How do you, Shaylee? I really, really appreciate what you're contributing because it really is opening up that part of a conversation. How does that land for you? What are your thoughts about?
Well, earlier I was thinking about what would be helpful for us to do in making this type of communication easier or more accessible to other people. And I think it's actually demonstrating the listening portion, even with triggers. And to me, that means recognizing that behind every thing is sort of love, and then it gets blasted through this filter of fear. And so what your friend was doing in response to Trump is so profound because he's speaking to what's behind that filter that the light is coming through. And I think if we can, I just like a hypothesis, can we demonstrate what it's like to take in information from somebody while they're attempting to approximate more transparent conversation and show them how we manage, demonstrate what it looks like to take it the wrong way, reinterpret it, and then respond.
That's really great.
Beautiful. I love the responded. Yeah.
Thanks.
I love it. And I think what we're demonstrating, in addition to that, is the ability to work through challenges. You know, we work through challenges. My marriage therapist said, you know, the thing is that you didn't show your kids how to work through some of the arguments you had. Like, wow. So, you know, and had they seen me work through the arguments, then the way that they're going to work through crises and challenges in their life as they get older is going to be different because they would have done it the way I did it versus being a jerk the way I was being a jerk, you know? So I think what you're saying is dead on, Shaylee, that we can start to demonstrate it in a conversation where we all have we're all coming from different parts of different parts of the world, if you will. Even though we're living somewhat in the same area, we do have different influences.
Well, I think what Jamie shared about his comment to his wife earlier was really beautiful, and that was love, where he was saying, I know what's important to you, let me help you. And it just didn't quite like hit that way. And I think if we can practice reaching for that thing behind the misinterpretation, then it helps alleviate some of us having to ground emotion, but also just, again, it's demonstrating like, oh, the nature of communication is flawed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But that, amen.
And you know what, Jamie, when I first heard your music, the first thing that hit me was Michael Beckwith and Agape. And, you know, I was just fortunate to work on the World's Greatest Motivators project with Michael Beckwith. And now I'm glued to every Sunday service. And I think, you know, have you, I was just curious, have you ever performed for Michael Beckwith at Agape or?
Yeah, he's my son's godfather.
Oh my gosh.
And my wife and he are very close. My wife's on the board at Agape.
Oh,
and
great.
I just performed there with Floyd on August 16th. We did all the music for the service.
I thought I saw you. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're gonna, yeah. So we're gonna wrap up in a couple minutes. So in the context of honestly expressing, what would you say? How would you kind of sum up the concept of honestly expressing and saying what's in your heart in a way that's clear and that it comes across the way you want it to come across?
I'd say the first is consider that everybody's doing their best, self included, where they're expressing currently. And where they're not expressing authentically, it's generally a result of fear. And so just kind of attempting to meet that with love. And then that kind of helps you like flip it and do the same for yourself.
Nice. Mikey.
I feel the same. I feel that, like, we're all dealing with a time that's uncertain, that's different for all of us, and that, and not to judge so much, and just to listen, and just to be there for each other is, really going to change a lot.
How about you, Jamie?
I agree with what the both of you said. And I think that I have to go to the old adage that my wife's father, William, used to say, that I mentioned earlier. It's like, if I have nothing nice to say, it's better to just say nothing, because the heightened anticipation of this election, and everybody, I don't know how many people actually have their own opinions.
Yeah.
They have basically taken in the information that they feel is right. I had a very interesting interaction with a former student last week on Facebook, and he said, "You're better than this. You should check into your facts," or something like that. And I went and checked, and I said, "You're right. Thank you for bringing that up to me." Which is not always my reaction. I was kind of impressed with myself in the moment, but I thanked him. But I also said, but based on how this man has spoken and what he's brought forward, my hackles kind of go up. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying it, and I didn't leave with that fuck you kind of energy. We left with, "Hey bro, I love you. Thanks for bringing this to my attention." And it's like, I'd like to create more of that. Not that I don't want to speak my truth, not because my truth is my truth, but it might not be your truth. And because I'm being honest, it might not meet with your truth. So I just want to be more mindful. I want to be mindful, especially in these next 2 months.
Your truth,
Say that again, Mike.
your truth is valid.
Yeah, it is. It is valid, but it might not necessarily reflect the person that I'm in dialogue with. So, I think, like Shaylee said, just realize we're all doing the best that we can. I
Yeah.
think that really sums it up. We're all doing the best that we can,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
and some people could do a little better.
Well,
Sorry.
honestly, depressing for me came out of the realization that I had a lot that I wanted to say. I had a lot of stuff that I thought was important, that I had learned a lot of things, and thought that I had learned a lot of tools, and a lot of friends would ask me for them, that I wrote a book, and then I realized that expressing myself from is a courageous thing. Like, saying what you have to say requires a lot of courage. But you can also be like courageously stupid. You can just like I'm gonna be a real tough guy, or I'm just gonna say what I have to say, and fuck everybody. They can just deal with it themselves. Or I could say, what I have to say is that people are really, really important. That I really love people, and that everybody out there is really, really important. So I'm the one that wants to say it. It's coming from my mouth. It's coming from my spirit. It's coming from my heart. So I chose to take responsibility for that. So I have a message, but that's all about me. If I really want that message to come out to other people, then that shows up in honest expression. Honest expression also takes into the consideration that some people can understand and some people can't understand, but it's not their fault. That's up to me. Like, if I'm going to say something to somebody, I'm the one saying it. I now take responsibility for that. If it doesn't land right, it came out of my mouth. The other person didn't ask me to say that to them. It's an honor to get. I think it's an honor for someone to grant you their listening, for someone to grant you their attention. I feel the best thing I can do with it is respect that and do my best to communicate in a way that I lead them the way that I want to lead them, which is mostly loved and empowered. And that's where honestly expressing came to me, and that's what I try to teach.
I love that you said love and empowered.
Yeah, that's about all there is. That's about all there is for me.
I think if you lead with love and empowerment of others, then you're doing a good service to the world. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I really want to thank you guys for hanging out. And before we finish up, I'd like to we'll go backwards. We'll start with Jamie, go to Mikey, and then go to Shaylee. Can you tell us a little bit about how to connect with you, what you guys are up to, and so how people can connect with you and how you can support people, and what they're up to, or how they can support you.
Well, Mikey, you said something about something that you're doing, and I'd love to participate in any way that I can. So, Martine, you can share my information.
I would love to have you. I'd love to have Shaylee. I'd love to have Martine. So what I'm doing is it's called the Live with Joy Summit, and we gathered a bunch of musicians, Billboard topping musicians, and other musicians that go viral. I'm part of an influencer conference, marketing expo, so we get together all the big influencers, but a lot of the influencers have mental health issues. So like they might have one side to their lives that's like completely like they're living balls out, like they have the mansions and the Rolls Royces, but they're unhappy. So one half of what I do is I'm partnered in this influencer conference. The other half, I'm all in for this Live with Joy Summit. It's livewithjoysummit.com, and we're doing a bunch of summits back to back, and we just really find the joy through the chaos, and try to raise the frequency and the vibration of the world. But it's basically people sharing their truth and their vulnerability in life and in all the circumstances that have happened that have been not so great, but they've come out on the other end and they're thriving, and now they want to contribute to others and pay it forward. So that's what we do with the Live with Joy Summit. And it's
Will you put the link in the comments so people can connect with that?
Of course.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jamie.
You can reach me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook.
I thought you're not on there anymore.
Well, I'm not on there. I had to turn it off today, and I'm going to go turn it off as soon as I'm done with this. But my website.
I couldn't resist that one.
I know it's a good one. It's a good one.
But create a watch party. Create a watch party for Martine and the Curiosity Theory, because it's important to get the show out and to
absolutely.
get that out
Thank
there.
You. Appreciate you. Go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
www.jamilula.com is my website. If you've heard anything you like and you're interested, jamilula@gmail.com is my email address. And I sing wherever people will have me, essentially. And just know that what I bring is all about uplifting the vibration of the planet, healing, heart opening, and inspiring individuals to a greater awareness of themselves.
Love it.
Jamie can groove like no other, too.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's funky as all heck. Shaylee.
Thank you. So I do coach people one-on-one, and I'd say my specialty is self-love. And I really appreciated your comment or compliment earlier, Mikey, about how I presented. It's been a fucking journey. And I've walked out from under a lot of trauma myself. And so there is, I think, an understanding that I can offer people where they might not have found it other places, and help them bridge to an expression of themselves where they feel it truly is them, and they're safe to do that. And I do that. My website is here.
Very good.
But I'm very active on Instagram as well, and it's Shaylee _Edwards, and I speak a lot to how to retrain your mind away from trauma and other negative thinking patterns.
Awesome. Will you go back and put your links in the comments?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So if you guys go to the beginning of the show and put your links in, that's the best place to put them. Otherwise, they don't show up till the very end.
Good call.
I want to thank you guys. I love all you guys. Shaylee, I just met you, and you're just a joy. Thank you very much. Mike, you're terrific. And Jamie, man, you're my heart brother.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. And cool, if you guys come back next week, we're going to be talking about racism. We're going to take a curious look at bias and racism, and I think it's going to be a incredibly interesting conversation, looking at it through curiosity.
And before we go, I really appreciate you doing this, Martine, and offering this, the format. When you described it to me, I was like, wow, that's incredible. And it's such a healthy and helpful way to approach information. So I really appreciate you doing this and for having me. And it was so great to meet you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. I learned so much from you guys too. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Martine.
Be a part of anything that Martine does, and thank you for listening today.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you guys.
Thank
hey,
you,
Jamie, you want
Martine.
to take us out the song or what?
Yeah, please, Jamie, take us out with the song. That's what I'm waiting for.
That's why I brought these tickets.
Let me walk to the banks of the river of love, where the current runs deep and baptized in the one, where there's no separation and the light is all we see, honoring all our differences, and love will set us free. Oh, Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I see the blessings of the past. It's time to requalify. Let's not forget, but learn to forgive. God knows that we gotta try. It's my responsibility to heal the wounds in me. Compassion, faith, and hope, and love, and truth will set us free. Oh, Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. You rock my soul.
Jamie, that was beautiful, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Mikey.
That is the
Thank you,
essence of
Shaylee.
honestly expressing.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys. God bless you guys.
That was